Hi there. Well, most people collect stamps. Some people collect old furniture, old cars, old postcards. Me personally, I like collecting railway memorabilia, and in particular, I've managed to collect and restore the driver's cab controls and equipment from 1962 tube rolling stock, which was last on service on the London Underground from April 1962 all the way up to 1995. The stock itself spent most of its working life on the Central Line, and during the late 1960s, early 70s spent some time on the Piccadilly. And towards the end of its working life, it spent some time on the Northern Line. The particular controls that you see before you are restored items that I recovered from Barry Wilkinson, who's in charge of the disposal of rolling stock at London Underground. He had these cars sitting down at the MOD facilities down in Shoebury in Essex near Southend, and they were quite happily rusting away, and they were in a dreadful state. So I decided to ask London Underground if I could have them, and they agreed. So I actually managed to get them in August 2002, and it's taken me from August 2002 up to 2010 at present to actually restore them and build the cab and equipment that you see before you today as best as near original condition. Now, I believe that I've got before me here a piece of history, because these type of controls are sadly no longer in use on the London Underground system as a standard design of tube train. The only train left on the Underground with these type of controls left is the Metropolitan line with the A60 surface stock, which is due to be scrapped in about, say, 2 or 3 years time from now. Anyway, how do these controls work, and in fact how does the train work itself? The 1962 tube stock was quite a common type of controls during its heyday, train-wise. At the end of the train, you had a guard who used to open and close the doors. Now all the doors are open and closed by the driver in one-person operation. But back in the 1960s, when these trains were brand new, you had a guard at the end of the train who used to open and close the doors, and the train crew, being the train driver or the motorman and the guard, would each have a set of control keys. And the first one being this little thing here, which is the guard's position key. Ta-da! It's like a small spanner. And what the job of this key would do is the guard at the rear of the train would put it in a control panel, and he would open and close the doors as required. And then when he went for his tea break or finished his shift, he would take the key out, and that way no one could open and close the doors whilst the guard wasn't there. And the second key that the train crew would have would be this one. It's a bit larger than the last key. It's a train crew key, and what this would do, this would open up the train doors, the cab doors, and various bits and pieces on the train that needed to be accessed. You'd use that key for it. But the most important key the motorman or train driver would have would be this key. This is the driver's reverser selector key that is like gold dust now, because these aren't very much used in the Underground apart from the Metropolitan line as mentioned. But this is the main, if you like, the ignition key like you have on your car. This is the key that was used just to move the train. Okay, so the controls themselves, as you can see in front of us here in the camera, you've got on this side of the driver's controls, you've got the master brake controller, which was responsible and is responsible for the release and application of the brakes on the train. And then over on this side, you've got the master controller, and in front of it you've got this little round turret kind of like drum thing here, which is called the reverser and selector drum, which is basically, if you think of your car at home, this is your gearbox, which gives you the selection of direction and speed, and this is your accelerator. So how did it work? Well, firstly, once the driver was ready to move the train, the guard would close the doors at the rear of the train and give the driver a single beat bell, which would sound like when you're at home with your microwave curry. Once your microwave's done, it goes ping, and that's exactly what the starting bell would sound like, what the guard would give to the driver on the 1962 stock. Once you've got the starting bell from the guard, you put your key into the reverser selector drum like so, like that. Push the master controller down, like that. Put the key all the way into forward 2 position, which would give the higher rate of running. Release the brakes, and then swing the master controller all the way around into series. Now the series position or halfway position, would give you a medium to moderate running speed of about 15 to 20 miles an hour. If the driver wants to speed the train up, all you do is swing the controller all the way around to full on or to parallel. That will then speed the train up to full acceleration rate of about 60 miles an hour. Back to series like that. So if the train driver, or motorman as he was called back in the 60s, was running along quite happily with the train in service, running along, la-di-da, all of a sudden the driver became ill, had a heart attack. Oh, I'm dead. This was called the dead man's handle, because once the pressure from this handle was released, or your hand came off it, immediately you did that, all the air would rush into the brake cylinders and the train would come to a very rapid stop. And there's no way that you could reset that handle and push it down to cut off the air. The only way you could do that is by swinging the handle back to the off position, pushing it down, and locking it by putting the reverser selector key back into the off position, like that. Only then could you release the handle and then lock it in the position like that. So it was a very fail-safe mechanism that is still in use on the underground today, and for that matter, the dead man's handle is quite a safety device that's used in not just railways but everywhere around the world, from lawnmowers to machinery in factories. The dead man's handle, the dead man device, is a safety device that actually helps people from having accidents whilst driving the train. Anyway, this particular type of controller handle, the dead man's handle, is only in use now to be found on the Metropolitan line of the underground system at present, but anywhere else it sadly no longer exists. So it's a piece of history, in fact. So the other way you stop a train, apart from the emergency brake, normally in service, the driver would use the EP, or the Electrochromatic Brake, which is the application from the first part of the handle here to about there. That's generally, as you can see my hand moving on the handle there, that generally would be the standard of the braking on these particular types of rolling stock. Yeah, the braking rate would be pretty good, providing it was maintained nicely. The brakes would be fine. If for any reason the driver misjudged his platform or misjudged his signal, or for some reason he needed to make a rapid stop, but he didn't want to use the dead man's handle, he would then go into what's called Westinghouse application, which is a pure air brake. So he'd put it into this application here, like that. That's Westinghouse. That is a very rapid air brake that would guarantee you stop him. The only problem with this Westinghouse brake, though, if you wanted to stop, you had to judge it. In other words, you had to know when to pull the Westinghouse brake application, because if you misjudged it, you wouldn't stop where you wanted to stop, and sometimes you'd never run the platforms, or you'd never run into where you shouldn't be going. But most train drivers or ex-tube drivers that are watching this video on YouTube will probably testify that the Westinghouse brake was a very, very good brake, and providing it was used sensibly, it was very reliable, which I would agree to that statement. And the other type of brake on here would be the emergency brake. If all those failed, don't panic, put it in emergency like that. That would be the same effect as a dead man's handle. That would bring you a very rapid stop, and everybody in the back of the train who's reading the newspaper and doing their crossword and drinking their tea will probably have a nice mess on their lap. That's basically the standard of the controls for 1962 tube stock. These type of controls, i.e. the brake, the master controller and the selector reverser drum, these became a standard design of controls from the late 1920s, early 1930s, being the 1938 stock. Really smooth things out, and that's when it paved the way for the standard of design of tube cars and control equipment. Anyway, that's my 1962 tube stock presentation. It's a shame it's not the real thing, but hopefully it's near enough to the real thing, and I hope you've enjoyed this little presentation video. Thank you.